Hello everyone.
So we're kind of nervous today
We're very nervous.
because after the first video, a lot of people were like, we want to hear more from you guys. And even though the first video was kind of very spontaneous,
Timer.
the first video was very spontaneous. We were just having a conversation and decided to record it. Right now, we're kind of under this pressure of like giving the audience what they want.
Hum yaar sikha. It's a
So-
thing now.
It's a thing now.
Yeah.
Okay, so today
But we
are.
decided to meet up every now and then and discuss whatever we're reading and how that might help both of us in our lives. So we decided to name the vlog or the video blog
Reading for survival.
as Reading for Survival.
Because that's literally what we do. That's legit. Like,
Yeah, just meet up.
we
read.
meet up and read. And it's not even like, sometimes we read to each other. Sometimes we're just sitting with each other on our side and we're just reading individually. But it's just this sense of peace that comes
And
with
I'll ask
someone's
her,
like,
"Tum kya pad rahi ho?"
Haan.
And then,
so today we were talking about emotions. So I've been having like not such a good week, and I was very like into my head. So we met at a cafe, and I was telling Asad how, I've been feeling very guilty lately, and taking a lot of responsibility for other people's emotions. And then this wise person,
not
what-
wise.
not wise, but what did you say?
So I noticed a lot of guilt coming from you, a lot of blame in the sense that you kept saying, I am responsible for the way that I am feeling. That ये मेरी गलती है कि मैं ऐसा महसूस करती हूँ. So I noticed that there was something very interesting how you were linking what you were feeling or the idea of emotion in general
Yeah.
to yourself. कि ये तो मैं करती हूँ या ये मेरी गलती है. So I almost sense that you were relegating the idea of
Yeah.
emotion
Yeah.
to yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Because
To a more private realm,
yeah.
to the eye. Yeah.
And in those instances when I feel guilty, I oftentimes think that in a moment of violence or whatever, I feel like
General mundane violence.
yeah, after some time, when I like in hindsight, I feel like I may have chosen to feel this way or feel bad or feel sad or depressed, and that it was a choice and not something that just happened
Yeah.
because of the circumstances.
And I've been super depressed lately. Welcome to my life, Depression is like my judwa behen or bhai, like the cousin who visits you when you're not expecting them. But what's really triggering my depression these days is again this idea of so there's been a lot of abuse in my life also. We don't need to go into what causes it in my case or yours. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's just generally everything around you in Pakistan.
Just like living in a patriarchal system, kind of.
कुछ होगा भी नहीं तो आपको
तो-
कुछ ना कुछ जरूर हो.
Absolutely.
So, without going into those nitty-gritties and respecting each other's boundaries also, I've been also, for the last couple of months, blaming myself for whatever happened to me, for all the violences that have been given to my body, that have been perpetrated against my body, whether these are in school or whether they're by my family, friends, different
acquaintances,
institutions,
yeah.
right? All the institutions, at least in my case, from family to education to work, have been oppressive, right? I mean, for a queer body to kind of go through that, which I'm assuming is common in your case also. And so I have also been in this habit of relegating all responsibility for what I'm feeling or what my body feels to a very private real. कि ये तो मेरी गलती है, मैं ऐसा महसूस क्यों करता हूँ.
Yeah.
या करती हूँ, मैं ऐसा एक तो प्रोनाउंस अभी कब हुए ही नहीं डिसाइड कभी जिंदगी में कि हूँ या
still in the
क्या हूँ.
process.
Still in the process. Who cares about language?
Yeah.
We do.
We do. Yeah, I think we do. We care a lot about. Derrida,
हमें माफ.
Okay, you were saying.
Yeah, so I was saying, but yeah, and I think when we do that, when we blame ourselves for how we are feeling, and for our own emotions, for how we are reacting to a situation, then a lot of problems arise. I think azan hone wali hai.
It's okay, that's okay.
A lot of problems arise from that, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we theorize around emotions or around what we're feeling, what our bodies are feeling, in a way that takes the blame away from us and holds the people accountable who have done this to us, right? And I think so, because we were feeling very, quite similar in that sense.
No, but then I was also talking about how, I mean, we feel completely responsible for how we feel because there's also this sense of, so when you understand that you can't change the other person, the only thing that's left to work on is yourself, and to like improve yourself or whatever. To self-care, it kind of turned around into saying, okay, I mean, if I'm going to take care of myself, then I need to stop feeling this way.
ये मेरी गलती है.
ये मेरी गलती है that I'm feeling this way. Okay, so all this conversations about emotions and how to navigate them, as in, is it our fault? Is it the society's fault? Is it that mutually exclusive? So that reminded me one chapter in Sara Ahmed's book, The Cultural Politics of Emotion, and it reminded Asad of another book,
which is called Depression, A Public Feeling by Cvetkovich.
Yeah. So we thought to like continue the tradition of reading things. I'm gonna read out the paragraph. The chapter is called Inside Out and Outside In, right? So it talks about emotions, and you will see. I'll read it now.
And explain it to me.
Yeah. What do I mean by the What do I mean by the sociality of emotion?
Sociality
from social. Okay, sociality of emotion. Before I can answer this question, we must firstly register what might seem too obvious. The everyday language of emotion is based on the presumption of interiority. If I was thinking about emotions, I would probably assume that I need to look inwards, asking myself, how do I feel? Such a model of emotion as interiority is crucial to psychology. Indeed, the emergence of psychology as a discipline had significant consequences for theories of emotion by becoming the object lesson for psychology. Emotions have been psychologized. In a psychological model, I have feelings and they are mine. I may express my feelings, I may laugh, cry, or shake my head. Once what is inside has gone out, so feeling is internal, but your reaction to it, right? If I'm sad, that's an internal feeling. But if I'm crying, I'm kind of transferring it outside.
That's but also the idea, could you explain the idea of emotions as being the object lesson for psychologists?
Yeah, because in psychology, you always, so of course there are disciplines, interdisciplinary, like social psychology and everything.
But like the medicalized.
But the medicalized version is that if you're feeling something, it is a product of chemical reactions in your brain, and that it's very, very internal. Right, and it kind of makes the possibility of the outside system or the society that you live in have a very negligible effect on that. Right, that if you're feeling sad, then it's you who's feeling sad.
So like the emotions almost being an object of study.
Yeah,
कि ये तो chemical measure कर सकते हैं, mathematically आपको बता सकते हैं कि आपका साथ
and that's measured inside you, and it also kind of gives it a pathological connotation. Because if it's just you, then we need to fix you as opposed to other factors around it.
Yeah.
Once what is inside has got out, when I have expressed my feelings in this way, then my feelings also become yours, and you may respond to them. If you sympathize, then we might have a fellow feeling. If you don't understand, we might feel alienated from each other. The logic here is that I have feelings which then move outwards towards objects and others, and which might then return to me. I will call this inside-out model of emotions. So your emotions are inside, and when you react to them, like if I start crying in front of you, I'm also giving you the emotions, right?
So they're moving towards the object or
towards
others.
the objects or other, and then it also moves back to you in the sense that if it also depends on the reaction that you give me about the emotion I have projected.
But the logic of inside is that you generate them and then they move outward into the social world.
Yeah.
That there's something biological about it that then moves into society.
Yeah.
Right.
So she critiques the inside-out model, and she says in critiquing this model, I am joining sociologists and anthropologists who have argued that emotions should not be regarded as psychological states, but as social and cultural practices. I want to offer a model of sociality of emotion which is distinct from this literature as well as informed by it. Emotions are not simply something I or we have. Rather, it is through emotions or how we respond to objects and others that surfaces or boundaries are made. The I and the we are shaped by, even take the shape of, contact with others. To return to my argument, in the previous section, the surfaces of bodies surface as an effect of the impressions left by others. I will show how the surfaces of collective as well as individual bodies take shape through such impressions. In suggesting this, emotions create the very effect of an inside and outside. I am Sara, Ahmed. I am not simply claiming that emotions are psychological and social, individual and collective. My model refuses the abbreviation of the and, A and D. Rather, I suggest that emotions are crucial in the very constitution of the psychic and the social as objects, a process which suggests that the objectivity of the psychic and social is an effect rather than a cause. Beautiful.
Very.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Yeah, she's basically saying, what she does is she introduces the inside-out model. She then critiques it. She introduces the outside-in model. She then critiques it. And then she says that I'm not saying that emotions have to be I or we. They don't have to be
generated inside by you biologically.
They don't have to be either collective or individual, and that these things are not mutually exclusive. Rather, it is the emotions themselves that allow us to actually categorize these, to make these categories of the, individual and collective.
Right.
I'm gonna read the last line again. I think it's very powerful. So, in suggesting the emotions create the very effect of an inside and an outside, I am not simply claiming that emotions are psychological and social, individual and collective. My model refuses the abbreviation of the and. Rather, I suggest that emotions are crucial to the very constitution of the psychic and the social as objects, a process which suggests that the objectivity of the psychic and the social is an effect rather than a cause. So, basically, outside-in model and inside-out model, what they don't talk about is how emotions are actually responsible for the psychic and also the social, as opposed to just being the other way around. It basically rejects the passivity.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay. Of the individual, right? So she's saying, including the outside-in model, she's saying it's not that the society is gonna, affect what you feel, but it's kind of both ways.
Yeah.
And it's also because of your emotions that you affect the society rather than just the other way around.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
Do you want to read it? I think
We'll also chop a lot.
No, we're not gonna chop. So Asad.
So Sabahat, from what I'm taking away from what you're reading, the text by Sara Ahmed, whom we all love, this very idea of looking at of critiquing the binary between the inside and the outside when you talk about clinical depression or when you talk about emotions in general, reminds me of another book that also critiques the medical model of emotions. Broadly speaking, Cvetkovich's work is an affect theory, which is again it's just a
Emotion,
fancy way of saying theorizing around emotions, affect. She has this amazing book that reminded me of in many ways of Sara Ahmed's text that you so very beautifully explained and explicated for us. And the book is called Depression, a Public Feeling. She also has another book called An Archive of Feelings, which is very interesting.
Who was this by?
And Cvetkovich.
Okay.
Cvetkovich. Yeah.
Cvetkovich.
It's showing up right now on your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Editing. But I think the title of the book in and of itself is so interesting. Yeah. Depression, a Public Feeling. That title in itself blurs the boundaries of outside and inside in Ahmedian, in an Ahmedian idiom, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Ahmedian. But yeah, because you would when you'd go to a hospital, and God knows I've been to many.
Likewise.
Like depression. I mean, you'd basically your parents or your friends or people would never think of depression in this way. Yeah. Depression a public feeling. They'd rather be depression a private feeling. Yeah, depression a personal
feeling. Because you are the
feeling.
one who are admitted.
आपको depression है, आप मरीज हैं इसमें, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel that her title, in and of itself, critiques that, sort of mocks that idea by coupling the word depression with the word public, which is very interesting. And I think in doing that, she's making that argument again of Sara Ahmed, which you just explicated, कि as such कोई binary नहीं है, or as such ये जो inside or outside. So she's more concerned with critiquing the inside and out, the inside to outside model. Yeah. So her entire work is around this idea that we need to depathologize emotion. We need to take emotion out of this private realm where we say, अच्छा ये तो इसके खून में है, या ये तो जानबूझ के करती है, you know. And that we start to understand the body as a site of cultural and power inscriptions or oppression, inscriptions in the Foucauldian sense, that the body is inscribed with knowledge, and this knowledge is emotion in many ways. So I would like to read these two passages from her introduction to the book. So in the introduction, she is summarizing the chapters that she's written आगे in the book, and I'm going to read the summary of her first two chapters in her own words.
All right.
In the extended essay of the book's second half, Chapter 1 grapples with the failure of cultural studies to make a significant intervention against the overwhelming predominance of the medical model within the huge body of popular writing on depression. So this is her basic idea, to critique the medical model within that model, critique all the writings on depression within that model, within the medical model. I have been motivated by a desire to develop forms of scholarship, writes Cvetkovich, and writing that offer narratives to critique and find out new ways to describe feelings, or the intersections of mind-body that encompass not just more cognitive forms of emotion, but the embodied senses. I mean, again, if we notice the way that she uses language, she says the cognitive forms of emotion, which is very interesting because cognitive is related to the mind. And so when she's saying the cognitive form of emotion, she's again carrying out that kind of coupling, depression, a public feeling, blurring the sort of Cartesian duality of the dualism of the mind and body. Chapter 2 sets aside the medical model in order to pursue the speculative model or the speculative hypothesis that the cause of depression is not biochemical imbalance, but the long-term effects of racism, colonialism, and patriarchy. And the point of departure of this model, the speculative model, is the histories of genocide, slavery, and exclusion and oppression of immigrants that seep into our daily lives of segregation, often as invisible forces of structure, uh, whose connections remain obscure. These are depressing conditions indeed, ones that make depression seem not so much a medical model or a biochemical dysfunction as the very rational response to global conditions.
And I like the fact that she says rational.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times,
you relegate emotion to.
Yeah, emotion to depression, and also like, as opposed to, these horrible, nasty words like paagal.
Paagal.
With people who
खून ही गंदा है तुम्हारा. ये भी वो. But I think in both of these works, and in fact, and Cvetkovich in this book goes on to make the argument that this increased focus on the individual, कि individual में मसला है या individual को अब हम cater करें, is also then co-opted by neoliberal authorities or neoliberal, how would you say it? The neoliberal authorities?
On what?
As in the neoliberalist. How would you say that? The neoliberal control.
School of thought.
The neoliberal. Yeah, I guess. But she makes the argument that this increased focus on the individual, कि individual में खराबी है, hence हमें individual की मदद करनी है, can then be used by neoliberal authorities to propagate the medical model. कि देखा हमने कहा था कि individual की बात हो रही है. So she's saying that the medical model can easily be co-opted by the neoliberal medical institution.
Also, when you talk about the neoliberal medical institution, it's also very much connected to capitalism and this whole race of individual.
And to think about it, therapy institutions in Karachi, and God knows I've been to many, have been neoliberalized. It's like 3,000, 4,000 rupees ki private therapy, where you go and increased focus is paid to you and your problems. I mean, my therapist is brilliant.
Yeah.
But before I started going to them, I went to a couple of other therapists
who were not so brilliant.
Hence, I wasted many years of my. But the idea of कि individual में मसला है, तो individual की मदद करते हैं.
Yeah.
And often these therapists or psychiatrists would put you on loads of medicine.
Yeah.
It becomes it's almost a very weird medical approach to clinical depression. I mean, God knows I was pumped on so many medicines that in the long term damaged me.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And rather than seeing the patriarchal functions of society that then, was soliciting.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about this, it also kind of reminds me, so, like, the approaches that my psychiatrist and my psychologist take are very different. Right? Because my psychiatrist, if I go to her and be like, I can't concentrate and I cannot, like, do reading or whatever, she will prescribe me a pill. Right? Ke ye kha lena, you'll be able to concentrate. As opposed to when I say this to my therapist, she's going to talk about it with me and she's going to figure out what's actually, like, why is it happening and is it something from outside or something, you explore it rather than pathologizing it and just, like, giving a cure.
Yeah. And I think that, again, I'm not saying that medicine isn't important.
Of course it is.
Right? It is very important.
Very important.
In certain cases.
Yeah. We're not saying medicine.
We're not.
I take medicine. Like.
So do I.
Yeah.
I mean, the very idea of just as we are not okay with an idea of an inside out model, कि हमारे अंदर मसला है तो फिर वो बाहर आता है.
Yeah.
Similarly, we're not saying that it's all society.
Yeah, we're not saying
that our bodies are not also tired, that we need to take medicine to feel better sometime, right? To lift ourselves. So the idea is not to fall on one end of the binary. The idea is to critique this very binary of inside and outside. I think these texts, both by Sara Ahmed, The Cultural Politics of Emotion, I love the title. The
cultural again, So this is depression and public feeling.
Feeling.
And Sara Ahmed, the cultural politics of emotion, right?
And the very phrase, the sociality of emotion.
That you know that it's not just internal.
Internal, yeah. So I think both of the texts really made Sabahat and me also understand that we need to look at our bodies, ourselves, as vessels for larger power structures, as bodies that are inscribed with politics by larger power structures, and there's no need to say that we are responsible for the way that we are feeling, or that we are responsible for how depressed we feel. And I think ये बहुत stigma है around depression, and I think this is a feminist issue.
Yeah. And also not to say that we are completely like giving up responsibility and blaming others, but just thinking about how we should not like think in these binaries. कि या तो उसका मसला है या मेरा मसला है. That there is no middle ground.
I think there needs to be that kind of a mediation that these texts offer. For me, at least, this is a feminist issue because so many times people who are on the receiving end of violence by patriarchy are actually gaslit. They're victim blamed, they're shamed. And I think it's important to tell ourselves that it's important for us. Remember, like in the last blog, we talked about infrastructures of listening. I think this is one of the ways that we can do it.
And so,
last remarks?
No, last remarks. We've gone way over time.
We've gone way over time.
Everyone who made it to the end of the video, thank you for listening to us ramble.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can do this again. Gain enough energy to get out of bed to instead,
to do reading for survival.
Reading for survival.
But we love you.
Bye, guys.